Hello, everyone. Tom here.
And Danielle.
Noise Brigade podcast. Notable by his absence, Bobby is not here, so I have a special guest slash co-host on this one, which she's appeared on here before. This is my wife Danielle, and I'm going to revisit an episode that Bobby and I did a few times ago. We had a lot of fun doing it, but I'm going to kind of rehash it a little bit. We're gonna do another worst of here. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. Um, and I want to preface this whole thing by saying you may get some background noise. We're on vacation. We're just kind of putting this together using our non-normal recording, apparatus, if you will. So you'll hear some background noises, cars, kids, whatever in the background. But I just wanted to give you the content that you crave. So anyway, jumping into this kind of remix, if you will, of the worst of Danielle, my
Yes.
wife, worst movie, play, or musical you've ever seen. What do you have?
Okay, well, let me preface this by saying that we had a friend that would um, make us sit down and watch like some really crazy stuff. So we saw a lot of like really disgusting movies and videos, but I'm going to go with like serious movies here. And the movie that made me cringe the most was not because it was horrible, but it was just personal. I didn't care for Saw 2, mostly because of the needle pit. Because I'm very open in that I am needle phobic. It's more than just like not liking needles. It's that I like, will punch people to get away from getting needles. So that particular part, I remember sitting there in the audience and just covering my eyes and about like hyperventilating because it brought that response, which is part of the reason that those movies were made. That's what they're supposed to do is feed on your fear. But for me particularly, it was a little too much.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair point. The some of the those movies were made to, as you just said, elicit the response. There's one of those things though where sometimes these horror movies or even just movies in general, you'll get that response and it's just not. It, like you said, it's too close to home. So
Yes,
that wasn't
yes.
it. Okay, so um, and I know this of you personally with the needle phobia, obviously, and beating people up basically to get a needle. So
Yes.
that one makes a lot of sense. Now, in that same sense, though, worst actor, actress, movie, musical, play, what do you have?
This one's really hard for me because I don't like necessarily like avoid anything because of an actor or actress. And it will make a little bit more sense when we get to the next question. But the person that came to my mind after I was thinking about this for a while is Leah Michelle from Glee. And mostly because she was so hyped like a couple of years ago because she was this, you know, person that had done Broadway. So it was like she has to be a phenomenal singer. And I just found her really like overconfident and she has a nasally voice. And, going through vocal training, I was taught not to do that. So, like, it just gets on my nerves every time I hear something that she does. So, like a couple of years ago, they were talking about putting Wicked to a movie, which they might still be doing. I've kind of lost track. They've canceled it, and then it was back on. And but she was one of the biggest names that was brought forth for Alphaba, and like I just cringed inside because it's like, I don't know, it's such a good role. And she's an okay singer, but I don't know if I can watch an entire movie with her playing like one of my favorite roles, like ever. Ever. Because she's so nasally and she just thinks that she's a lot better than she is. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
that makes a lot of sense, and it's interesting to me that you went that route in picking something that was essentially part of a musical, even though it was a television show.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the and it kind of leads into the next question here. Um, but I think that the interesting thing on that to me is you name somebody that obviously I would say within the last maybe 10, 15 years I'm losing sight of when Glee came out because these years just kind of go back and forth now and kind of stack upon one another. But somebody that would, like you said, so hyped.
Yes, very hyped.
Very, very popular though.
Push down your throat to the point.
On the front of, I'm sure People Magazine or these things that are they still in the front of grocery stores? I don't know.
Yes, they are.
But they were this was that she was that kind of that person. They very very on top of the world, if you will, and so interesting.
Well, she's not so much anymore.
Not anymore,
because...
but 10, 15 years ago, yes. So interesting to hear that pick. So, but in that same music sense, though, one of in the worst of episode that Bobby and I did, we got into talking about worst bands, and we kind of knocked on Creed and Nickelback and the ones that everyone likes to make fun of.
Yes.
But I had made a mention of my worst song, and so that kind of started a whole nother little conversation that we had. So, worst for you though, worst band, album, song, what do you have here?
I don't have a like worst song per se. I have like a genre. It was we went through a very like dark time in like the 2000s where we and don't get me wrong, it's not like I hate pop, but we went through this phase where there was this like repetitive, nasally, very overly simple pop songs, and like I just can't stand them, but then I can't like not sing along with them. And I mean, one of them is like, hey, you, I don't like your girlfriend. No way, I think you need a new one. Like Avril Lavigne. Like, it's like I don't hate Avril Lavigne and I don't like hate her music. I just can't stand that song because it's repetitive. And like another one was Bananas by Gwen Stefani. The like a few times I've been around that track, so it's not just gonna happen like that. Cause I ain't no hollaback girl, I ain't no hollaback girl. This is Bananas. Bananas. It's like I can never think of Bananas without singing that song. But it's like this like love-hate relationship with them. And don't get me wrong, like I don't know about Avril Lavigne, but I know that with like Bananas, the Hollaback Girl, like she wrote that as a clap back to Courtney Love, which I don't know if you knew that. Because
that's a new. I mean, I'm sure I've read it somewhere, but again that's one of those things that kind of probably in one ear out the other.
Yeah, Courtney Love like did an interview for 17 magazine, and she quoted saying, "Being famous is just like being in high school, but I'm not interested in being the cheerleader. I'm not interested in being Gwen Stefani. She's the cheerleader, and I'm out in the smoker shed." And like Gwen Stefani like read that and was like, "That's not me, but if that's what you're gonna call me, then you know what? I'm gonna own it." So like I totally like, it's like that whole like girl power. You took something negative that somebody wrote about you that would eat me up inside,
Right.
and she made it into a song that, you know, you think of when you're grocery shopping and you come across the bananas.
So this is interesting. So I know that you obviously respect both Avril Lavigne and Gwen Stefani as musical artists.
Mm-hmm.
I know that. But it's funny because I thought this and when I made my answer, and you probably know this about me. Obviously, you know this being my wife, but
No.
huge Beastie Boys fan. But my
Yes.
all-time least favorite song is "Girls."
Uh-huh.
I hate that song with a passion, and I really don't like to use that word, but I don't like it mainly because of what you just said. It just gets stuck in your head.
Well, another one of theirs that gets stuck in my head because it's overly simple and it's repetitive is the brass monkey.
And
Yeah, funky monkey.
same album.
Like it basically like just eats your brain away until that's all that's left is that repetitive,
right. So
like
there's
overly simple line.
something to be said about the repetition there. But to go back to your Avril Lavigne, Gwen Stefani, and anyone else kind of doing that same sense, like you said, genre.
Yeah.
I think the big thing that can be said for that is it's that commercialism. They were very at the time, you know, putting out hit records one after another. We know that. Unfortunately, they found kind of that where you have that. If it were anyone else, they were one hit wonder.
Yeah.
But they actually found they kind of found that in a box. They found to be okay. I have this hit, and yeah, it might sound like my other music, but my other music is way better than this.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Well, in doing my research on this, I actually did not know this about the Gwen Stefani song. Is that that album? She was trying to make it out on her own, on her solo album, and she actually co-wrote with, again, I'm probably going to butcher his name, but Pharrell Williams, which is the like because I'm
Pharrell.
happy, which is another one that is overly simple and it repeats itself. So like I think it's just it has nothing to do with the people involved. It was just a sign of the times, and I wasn't a fan of that, like the repetition. And I said that it would make sense when I talked about the girl from Glee, Leah Michele, because she goes into like the nasal stuff a lot, and that tends to happen with these songs that are repetitive.
Right.
And they're very repetitive, and they're very simple, and they're very nasally, and I just don't care for it.
So, okay, so I think we have a sense of things that you don't like. Worst of. Nasally seems to be a big one. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get away from the movies and the music and whatever, and let's dive into drinks.
Okay.
Worst drink that you've ever said, you know what? Not for me. Never going to do it again. Or if I did it again, you'd have to throw a lot of money my way.
Well, I don't have any drinks that I would necessarily say that I'll never drink again, but I do have one in particular that I'm just not a big fan of. And those of you listening, you may or may not know that Tom is a big beer connoisseur. He goes out and he finds the most random beers, and he wants to try as many as he can, like different kinds. And a lot of times he'll buy 2 of whatever he's buying so that like I can try. But there was one in particular that I just did not care for. And before I even mention it, I will say that I am a huge fan of chocolate and peanut butter. I love Reese's Cups. I live for Reese's Pieces, but I do not like chocolate peanut butter porters. Like, I can't gag it down. And the first time I tried it, I don't know if can I mention it, brand name?
Go ahead. That's what we're,
okay. The first time I tried it was a Sweet Baby Jesus, and it was like, Sweet Baby Jesus, this is thick AF. And it was gag worthy for me. So it was almost like the scene from Anchorman where Ron Burgundy is like, milk was just a bad choice, because that's what it is. It's just so thick. And like, I love chocolate milk. I will drink chocolate milk whenever. And as I said, like, chocolate peanut butter is my jam. I just like cannot get through that. And it's gotten to the point where Tom knows that about me and he will not even buy me anymore. Like, that's along those lines.
And that there, and if we can talk about it. That's a DeClaw beer. DeClaw's out of Baltimore, I believe, if I remember correctly. Bigger, one of the bigger microbreweries, or whatever they're considered, craft breweries.
And I've had a lot of friends that love it and they swear by it. So it's just my personal taste.
And it's funny, they actually make a different variant of it too. But the one that was funny, whenever Bobby and I did this episode, I had mentioned the drink I mentioned was actually one that you, myself, and Kyler had that neither of us could finish, but we all tried it. It was the Royal Jamaican Ginger Beer.
Oh,
And
yeah, no.
Yeah, and I know that you would remember that. So.
And I love ginger too. That's the thing.
Yeah.
When you put alcohol, like when alcohol gets involved, it's like the things that you thought you loved just goes out the window, because it's like, it's peanut butter and chocolate. I love peanut butter and chocolate.
But it's okay to dump on Duclaw. Duclaw's not listening.
My luck is that they would choose this one to listen in
That
on.
would be awesome. Duclaw, sorry, but not sorry.
Hey, and you know what? If you're listening, get a hold of me and I will give you some pointers.
Or just give us some free beer. That's
Yes,
fine.
yeah,
Make it up to us. Okay. Last question, and I will say this: Bobby and I did not hit on this one. We didn't do worst book. But whenever we were putting this together, and this is my last question. I'm not saying this will be the end of the episode necessarily. We'll wrap up here with maybe buttoning things up here. But what was your worst book that you've ever read, or that maybe you opened up and you read the first couple of chapters, was like, burn it with fire, because I ain't doing this one.
Okay, so I thought long and hard about this, and I kind of even feel bad mentioning it, because I feel like you should, let things go, and you shouldn't speak ill of the dead. But the book that I read recently, or semi-recently, that really got me to the point of kind of thinking, like, is this a joke? Like, is this, like, made up? It kind of it left me feeling uneasy, was Dustin Diamond's Behind the Bell, which was supposed to be, like, his view on Saved by the Bell. And
if you're not familiar, Dustin Diamond was Screech.
Yes, and he just recently passed. So as I said, I didn't want to, like, talk ill of the recently passed, but reading the book, I felt like he spilled a bunch of tea on his coworkers. Now, I don't know if you know this, but he was younger than the rest of the cast. And because he played such a dorky character, I think that he was left out on a lot of things. And, everybody's been that awkward teenager. You can kind of relate to that, where, things are going on and you're the odd one out. But he spilled some tea in the book. He basically was saying that, like, everybody dated everybody on the show, except for him. And this has been, like, pretty much confirmed by other cast members that, like, they were teenagers. So it's like, okay, well, this person has a crush on this other person, and they would date. but like he like told the story about like what was her name? Tiffany Amber
Yeah,
Thiessen.
Kelly Kapowski.
Kelly Kapowski. Like he like put out a story saying that she was like in a serious relationship with this guy while like she was going to the trailers of Zach and what's his name? The other guy.
AC Slater.
Yes, yes. So like
I almost said
basically-
Zach and Miri, and that was
No,
the wrong,
that's a
completely
different
wrong
movie.
thing. Yeah.
That's a different movie. But like he was basically like kind of just like calling them out on like their behavior as teenagers, where they were all forced onto the, not forced, but they were all on the show, and they're all these very attractive teenagers, and they're all like a year or two older than him, and he's playing this dorky character, so like he was left out. So like he goes on and he like blasts them for basically like jumping from trailer to trailer, if you get my hint on that.
We all know what trailer jumping is.
Yeah.
It's fine. Go right ahead.
Well, but I mean, the way that he was talking about it, it sounded like he was just like above it. It wasn't that he was left out. He was above it. He might have been invited, but he never partook. There was like, I mean, he suggested that there was like group stuff going on with the cast, but he was never involved. He was never involved. But then, like, a couple of chapters after that, he's talking about how he was going to Disney World and he was trolling for girls and, you know, and then boasting that he, like, slept with, like, 2,000 girls. And it's like, I read it and I'm like, you can't say that you were, like, above doing the cast stuff, all the back scene cast stuff, and then talking of like boasting about all this stuff that you were doing on the side because of who you were. It left me with this sense that he was this awkward teenager and he was left out and he felt like he had to make it up.
That makes perfect sense. I'm going to say this again. I don't mean to speak ill the dead here, but Screech is not Ric Flair. There ain't no 2,000 women for Screech.
No, I mean, and if there was, I kind of feel like, I don't know, that maybe there was some taking advantage of, like, well, I'm the dorky one.
There's some groupiness going on or whatever.
Yes.
At that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was like not that they felt bad for him, but you know, I really don't believe that there was actually 2,000. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I think that was fabricated. It was like, I was above all this stuff that was going on with the cast, but I was wanted.
Right.
Because, look,
Right.
I slept with this many people, so I chose not to sleep with them, but I chose to sleep with this many people, so I have value. And it like, I read the entire book, and it left me, like, sad for him, and I don't think that that's what he meant for when he wrote it. And I'm putting "wrote" in quotations because I kind of read that he said that he did not write it. It was a ghostwriter.
Right.
But I don't think that that's what he meant for. I don't think that he meant for those emotions that, like, I think that he always meant for people to feel bad for him.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because he was the dorky one of the cast, but I don't think that he meant for you to feel bad for him on, like, that deep of a level.
Yeah, no.
And it was awkward.
That makes sense. So, look, we've hit, we kind of did a rehash of our worst of episode, but we asked very similar questions. We threw a different one or so in there. And I wanna again reiterate, kind of open this up. We are kind of we're on vacation. We're in Florida. We're at an RV park. So you probably heard a bunch of kids and cars driving by, whatever. And our recording situation right now is my phone on top of a container or half container of peanut butter filled pretzels.
Yes.
So,
we're very high tech here.
yes, audio quality aside, this has been fun. It's been interesting. There's been certainly a couple things here that I didn't know, and we've been together for over 20 years. So,
yes.
been a fun one. Once again, this has been another good, hopefully, episode of the Noise Brigade. You have anything you want to close us out with?
No, I just hope that Bob feels better and he's ready to come back.
Yes, yeah, and I didn't mention that up front. He just kind of had a bout of laryngitis, and it's been really, really kicking his voice. So if you listen to the last one, I made fun of him because he sounded like Barry White, and I'm hoping.
I'm sad I missed that one.
Yeah, yep. So we'll be back at you on the next go around. Once again, Noise Brigade. Have a good one.
Bye.